Association of Governments PopTac meeting, Population Technical Advisory Committee. And this meeting is called to order. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. And those who are on Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. And if you would like to comment at today's meeting, please complete the request to speak form. MAG staff can assist you with any questions you might have. If you have parked in the garage, a validation stamp is available at the counter. And if you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see the staff for a ticket. And hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. And we'll go ahead and start this meeting with a roll call. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When I say your name or your agency, please let me know whether or not you're here. Bryant Powell, Apache Junction.
Here.
Tracy Clark, ADOT.
Here.
Cole Hunger, Avondale.
Here.
Dan Cotterman, Buckeye.
Here.
Stacy Bridge Denzak, Carefree.
Here.
Stephen Perales or anyone from Cave Creek. Sam Andrea Chandler.
Here.
Jose Macias, El Mirage. Let's see, Victor Cantu or anyone else from Florence. Farhad Tavasoli or anyone from Fountain Hills. Calmiris Gilbert.
Here.
Alex Lerma or anyone else from Glendale. Christian Williams or anyone from Goodyear. Randy Proch, Litchfield Park.
Here.
Rodolfo Lopez, City of Maricopa.
Here.
And for Maricopa County, we have Adam Cannon and Patrick Donga.
Here.
Mesa, Josh Grand-Leonard.
Here.
Paradise Valley, Brandon McMahon.
Present.
Peoria, Sarah Dirks.
Present.
I saw Emily Dawson for Phoenix.
Yeah, here.
Tara Harmon, Pinal County.
I'm present.
Sarah Clark, Queen Creek.
Here.
Brian Myers or anyone from Salt River, Pima, Maricopa Indian Community.
Debbie File, Salt River.
Hi, Debbie.
No.
Taylor Reynolds, Scottsdale.
Here.
Anyone from Surprise? I think Lloyd said he was going to be out. Do we have anyone from Surprise? That is a surprise. Jacob Payne, Tempe.
Here.
Jeff Wilkerson, Valley Metro. Anyone from Valley Metro? Dee McGarry, Wickenburg.
Here.
And Gregory Arrington, Youngtown. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for being here today. We got a great meeting and looking forward to it. Item number 2, our next item is call of the audience. This is the opportunity for public comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda. They're informational items or items on the agenda for discussion are not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for call of the audience unless the chair requests for exception. I have received no request to speak from call of the audience. Any written comments are also any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with the committee in the formal meeting minutes. Staff, have we received any online written comments for call of the audience?
We have not.
We'll move on to item number 3. Our next item is the meeting minutes. Does any member of the committee have any question on the minutes? And staff, have we received any online written comments for this item?
We have not.
I'll now seek a motion to approve item number 3. And I can't see.
So moved.
All right.
Who was that?
Tracy Clark.
Thanks, Tracy.
All right, we have a motion is from Tracy. Is there a second on this item?
I'll second that. Taylor Reynolds.
All right, thank you, Taylor. All right, now we have a motion and Taylor is a second. We will have those participating in the meeting online take part in a voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their audio. We need to see the faces from everyone that participates in the voice vote. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their camera, staff will conduct a roll call vote. Staff will only call on those virtual participants who did not turn on their camera. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote so that staff can count the names of those, so that staff can count the people's names of whose cameras are not on. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online? Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay. And members, please leave your cameras on. Staff, can you take a roll call of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their camera?
Sam Andrea Chandler.
Aye.
I think that was the one. The motion passes.
Thank you all. We're going to move on to item number 4. This is item on the agenda will be presented by Scott Bridwell, socioeconomic modeling engineer. Scott, will turn it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Can everybody hear me okay and see the screen?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great.
No,
And now, yes.
Okay,
now, yes, yes. No.
thanks. Okay, so this is the July 1, 2024 municipal population update. I will direct your attention. Let's see, is this moving? I don't think this is moving.
Oh, should be.
Not moving on the screen. I guess that's okay. Okay, there we go. So I'll direct your attention to attachment number 1, which is provided in the agenda. I'll be going over this, but there's a little more detail and specifics, or if you want to go ahead and look ahead, feel free to do so. So page 1 is giving an overall county level summary of the estimates for this year. Page 2 is a place level summary. It basically details the change and the overall numbers. Page 3 has a more detailed kind of accounting with the occupancy factors and house units and things like that. And page 4 has a written methodology that kind of outlines what I'm going to go over today. So 2024 municipal population update. This is something we do every year. It's required by executive order. And we do this in cooperation with the state demographer and the Arizona Office of Economic Opportunity, and also with CAG, Central Arizona Association of Governments. And some of the things that this gets used for are essentially expenditure limits like home rule. We use these for projections as for our base year. These get used for MAG membership dues. And then we also use these for just sort of ad hoc miscellaneous analyses that get requested from us. I will mention that these are different from census estimates, and the census estimates are what are used for state shared revenue. That's not what these estimates are used for. So just some overall demographic trends that we're seeing, I think that kind of informs this update. In terms of fertility, mortality, natural change, we're seeing kind of continued slight declines or really kind of stabilization in terms of birth rates, and then also sort of a rebounding of natural change since the pandemic. Some of the things we're also seeing are really declining geographic mobility, so essentially less overall movement. And we've seen this as evidenced in some of the sales transactions data that we've looked at. One of the things we'll see with this also is that there's a much increased housing supply. There's a lot of housing unit growth. And what's interesting about this growth is a lot of that is actually more directed towards renter type of occupancies, so apartments, the single family rental complexes, that kind of thing. And going along with this, then there's also some declining absorption, I think, on the multifamily front, and we're seeing some also increased vacancy rates there as well. As I mentioned before, we're seeing some stabilization here in terms of natural change. So looking at births minus deaths, Maricopa County, we have a natural change this year of close to 13,000. In Pinal County, it's around 1,300. Okay, so the methodology that we're applying for these is the same methodology that we have applied last year. Essentially, we have total population that's broken into two components. There's a population within group quarters, and group quarters are things like dorms, prisons, nursing homes, that type of thing. And then population in households, which is your traditional population. So in terms of how we're estimating the group quarters methodology, sometimes there are some confusions here, but what we do is we basically take the Census 2020 group quarter counts for each city, and we use that as our baseline. And then what we have is a subset of tract facilities, again, things like prisons and dorms, really the larger facilities, and we look at changes in those counts from the current year to the census year. Once we have that change, we then apply that to the 2020 count. And then the thing that's a little bit unique this year and last year is that there were a few cities that actually submitted requests to the census to have their group quarter counts revised. And so far that impacts Florence, Goodyear, Tempe, and Phoenix. For Florence, Goodyear, and Tempe, because they were incorporated in the census estimates in 2023, we actually have the counts that were accepted by the census. The Phoenix was not, for some reason they didn't make it in. They're supposed to make it into the next one. So for Phoenix, we're still using the amount that they requested from the census. And then after this next year, we'll revise that based on what the census actually accepts. So that was the group quarter side. This is talking more about the household population side. And this is sort of a two-level method. What we have is we have what's called the modified composite method. And the composite method is primarily conducted by Jim Chang, who's the state demographer in Arizona OEO. And they use various administrative records, which I'll go into a little bit more detail in a second, to try and track changes in the population for specific age cohorts. Then we have, that's sort of the top-down kind of method. Then we have more of a bottom-up method, the housing unit method, where we're looking at the changes in the residential unit composition and then taking that along with the Census 2020 occupancy factors. So when we do that, we take the bottom-up approach and then compare it with the top-down approach to come up with an overall county control total. And then once we have that overall county control total, then we adjust the bottom-up, the housing unit method, so that the two are in correspondence with each other. And from that, we get the household population. So looking a little more at the composite method, basically the population is broken into four groups: 0 to 4, 5 to 17, 18 to 64, and 65 plus. And for each of these, we have administrative records that correspond with that. So for age 0 to 4, we're looking at survival of births. So basically births in the last 5 years minus the deaths among children 0 to 4. We're also looking at changes in school enrollment for ages 5 to 17, looking at changes in driver's licenses and IDs for ages 18 to 64, and looking at changes in Medicare and Social Security enrollment for ages 65 and older. And so the way that this is being done right now is to essentially look at the percent change in each of these measures, these metrics, and then apply that to estimate what the population is in that age group. So looking at the first age cohort, this is population 0 to 4. And again, this is looking at basically 5 years of birth and death data and looking at the number of births that survived over that period. So looking at Maricopa County, there's a slight decline this year. It's kind of been that way for the last couple of years. So there's a negative 0.5% change in Maricopa County. and there is a 4.2% increase within Pinal County. Looking at the 5 to 17 category, this is a little more complicated just because of how the data is coming out of ADE. I have a chart here of the actual October 1 enrollment that just to give you an idea of the trend, but the actual method that's being used to compute the change is looking at some additional data. So it's looking at the October 1 enrollment. It's also looking at the average daily membership data. And then it's also looking at the new ESA Empowerment Scholarship accounts that allow people to basically opt out of their school and do private or in-home. And so when we look at this, there's a negative 0.8% change, so slight decline within Maricopa County, and then a 2% change or increase for Pinal County. Looking at the driver's license IDs, again, we have this time they're both positive. We have a 0.8% change in Maricopa County and a 4% change in Pinal County. And then looking at the Social Security data and the Medicare, we have a 2.5% change or increase in Maricopa County, and we have a 3.8% change or increase in Pinal County. So as I mentioned, that was the top-down method. So essentially what we're doing is we're trying to come up with an overall county level total of the household population. This is describing the more bottom-up method, which is called the housing unit method, or sometimes affectionately known as the HUM. And so for this, what we're basically doing is we're taking the Census 2020 residential units, and from that, we're adding the residential completions that we collect from our members, from you guys. And we're also then bringing in the annexations that are coming in. So far since Census 20, there really hasn't been a whole lot of annexations activity. So that's fairly negligible here, but we still kind of bring that into the accounting process. So when we do this, then we look at the housing unit growth and then multiply that by the vacancy rate and persons per household factors that are coming out of Census 20. And then once this is done, we then add that to basically each previous year. So it's basically following the change. So once we come up with this, we have a method which is not quite consistent with the county level total because they were two different methods. And so then a factor, a rake factor, or sometimes called a bench factor, is used to basically scale all the numbers up or down so they match the county level controls. In this current iteration, the Maricopa County composite number is lower than what's coming out of the HUM. So the HUM is actually being scaled down. And in Pinal County, the inverse is happening where the county level control is lower than what's coming out of the HUM. And so those county control, those place level totals are being scaled up. So in terms of how the housing unit growth is occurring, and this is what we're showing this year, Maricopa County has kind of had a steady increase since the census. And this year is no exception. Again, it's adding 38,000 units. Pinal County is consistent, again, with what happened last year, although that's a little bit lower than it was in 2022. And this is just, as I'm a geographer, I feel obliged to throw in a map of some type. So this is a map of residential completions for fiscal year 2024 across the county. And so you can see some hotspots happening in Pinal County, especially like in Maricopa, and then the various kind of usual suspects within Maricopa County, Southeast Valley, Mesa, Surprise, Goodyear and Buckeye, as well as a lot of growth in Central Phoenix. So this is what we're reporting right now as the county level results. So for Maricopa County, this is showing a change over last year of about 65,000. In Pinal County, this is showing a change of about 13,000. And so overall for the MAG MPA, which would be all of Maricopa County and parts of Pinal County, we're showing a change of about 74,000 over last year, about 340,000 since the census. Okay. And these are the actual place level numbers. Again, I'll direct you to your attachment if you would like to look at this for a more readable, easily digestible version of this. This is a actual action that we are looking to get approval for. And I have the verbiage for that attached on the slide here. So one of the things that we're doing here is we are, because of the timeline of how things work out, the actual final control total numbers that come out of the state demographer's office aren't complete yet. So what we are requesting is a action that will approve this, assuming that that final control total that comes from the state demographer does not change by more than 2% for the MSA. And with that, I'm happy to field any questions.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions? This is an action item, right, Scott?
Yes. And here's the
right.
action itself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for leaving that on there. Are there any questions for Scott? Jump on in. I can't see who might raise their hand, so if you guys can help me with that, I don't think it'll hurt just to jump in. All right. All right. Hearing and seeing no questions or comments. Prior to voting, there's an opportunity for members of the public to comment. And staff, I've received no requests for that. Have you received any online comments?
We have not.
Okay. I'll ask one more time if there's any questions or comments on the agenda item today.
Chair, can I? I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
Dan,
Jump right on in.
Buckeye.
I can't tell. I can't see anything. So.
Sorry. Quick question. How many residents per unit is used in our calculations? Just as we try to explain this to our residents or councils, you know, if we have a certain number of residential units that we constructed in the last year, we have some certain assumptions about how many people live in each unit. The math's pretty simple and what we would expect in growth. That's different than what's projected here. So I'm just curious, like, what's the residential count per unit in these numbers?
So the original number that's used is based on the census. So it's going to use the census 2020 persons per household and vacancy rate. However, as I mentioned before, because the overall county level control total is lower than what the housing unit method is producing, there's sort of like an effective persons per unit that will come out of that. So it's more of a derived factor than it is an input factor. I'm not exactly sure what that is for Buckeye, but I'm happy to provide it and follow up with you afterwards.
That'd be great. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, this is Taylor Reynolds from the city of Scottsdale. I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Taylor.
And it's not really, thank you. And it's not really related, I guess, to this population update and methodology. Have you guys been discussing how your methodology might have to shift or change in future years with all these potential accessory dwelling units coming online? And how would you account for, I guess, persons per unit moving forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. So far, we haven't seen a whole lot of them coming into our data. Again, right now, and it's kind of a hedge in a way. We're basically taking the factor that we have and then assuming that the bench with the county is going to try and account for those differences in the occupancy factors. But that's something we can definitely try to look more into for next year.
Thank you for that. Are you considering, I know now you collect from us completion data, right?
Yes.
And, do you think that you'll start collecting ADU completion data as well? And again, I realize that the occupancy of an ADU is likely going to be different than the main structure, but that's going to have an effect on all of our communities with this latent population that will be coming forward. So I know it's probably not going to be ideal for you guys moving forward because it's going to be a shift, but do you feel like there's going to be more data collection that will be requested of us?
So right now, I think a lot of this is leaning on the actual assessor permits. So I think that's something we might actually follow up with you guys on. What we need to probably do is spend some time looking at the assessor data and seeing what we can kind of pull out of that, and then maybe go from there.
Scott, if I can jump in real quick, we're already collecting completions, so theoretically we should be getting them. Just part of it is a matter of knowing whether or not it's an ADU, And I think that can, like Scott said, can be done in conjunction with permit data. And then we might have to do some follow-up with individual places if we're not getting the good information to tell us where the ADUs are. But we should be getting it already.
Sure.
And of knowing which one is which.
Yeah, and at least for our municipality, we already have our residential districts allow casitas, but we're treating those differently than an ADU. But all right, thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Good questions. Anything else?
Hey, Scott, Jose from El Mirage. Can we get a copy of your presentation so we can share with our staff?
Copy of what? Sorry.
Your presentation that you just did right now.
Yeah, it'll be posted online in the next couple of days, and we'll send it out to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Macias. Any other comments or questions? Well, great work. We appreciate all the work that's gone on to get us to this point and to be able to even take a look at the motion here and to be able to possibly approve it. Is there a motion to recommend the approval of the draft July 1, 2024 municipality resident population updates for MAG member agencies, provided that the Metropolitan Statistical Area control data is within 2% of the final control total?
Motion.
And who's this again?
Nick Leftwich, Apache Church.
All right, Nick. So we got a motion.
Chair,
Nick, yeah.
We need somebody else to make a motion since you,
Oh, yeah.
the appointed member, and not Nick at the time.
Oh, sorry about that.
I love your enthusiasm.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, I love
This is
it.
Dan. I'll take the motion.
Dan, thank you very much. Is there a second on the motion?
Seconded, Jacob Payne, Tempe.
We have a second for Jacob from Tempe. We'll have those participating in the meeting online take part in the voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their audio. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and online? Those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Is there any opposed by saying nay? Thank you. Members, please leave your cameras on. Staff, can you take a roll call of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their camera?
Sam Andrea, Chairman.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. I think that means the motion carried, right, Scott?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll move on to item 5. Are there any requests from the membership for an item on a future agenda? Okay, the next agenda item is comments from the committee. Are there any comments or announcements from the membership? The next meeting of the MAG Population Technical Advisory Committee is scheduled to be on Tuesday, January 28th, 2025, which it seems reasonable for me as the chair to remind everybody that that's halfway through a decade, right? That
Yes.
in January 2025, we're hitting the midpoint of a really important date in April of 2030. But, you know, that's still 5 years away, right? And I want to thank everybody for their time. And we're looking forward to the next meeting. And with no further business today, our meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Scott.